The transmission came without warning. A deep, resonant voice echoed across every screen, every frequency, every neural link. The message was absolute. We are the Zalvoran. Your world now belongs to us. Submit, or be erased. The sky darkened as colossal ships descended, blotting out the sun. Their hulls pulsed with an eerie, shifting glow, technology far beyond human comprehension. Cities went silent. Satellites shut down. Military forces scrambled, but every weapon system fell under alien control in seconds. A holographic figure materialized over Earth's major capitals. Towering, featureless, exuding authority. Your history is one of war and destruction. You are unfit to rule yourselves. Kneel, and we will grant you purpose within our empire. Governments fractured under the weight of the ultimatum. Some leaders hesitated, their voices filled with fear. Others argued for negotiations, seeking terms of surrender that did not exist. Then came the demonstration. From orbit, a single beam of light lanced downward, striking a remote island in the Pacific. Within moments, the landmass dissolved, replaced by a perfect, glass-like crater. This is not war. This is inevitability. Submit, or be unmade. Across the world, silence reigned. Streets emptied, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Humanity had faced extinction before: plagues, wars, disasters. But never this. Then, finally, a response. One word. No. It wasn't spoken by a single leader. It wasn't an act of defiance from one nation. It was whispered, murmured, repeated until it became a roar. Laughter followed. Raw, unrestrained. Millions of voices joining in defiance. The Zalvoran hesitated. This was unexpected. Every species they had conquered had submitted once shown overwhelming force. But these creatures, these humans, laughed at their power. The holographic figure flickered, recalibrating. You do not understand your position. The reply came, calm and certain. No. You don't understand yours. The transmission cut. The silence that followed was not fear. It was the sound of something ancient awakening. The Zalvoran command hesitated. This reaction was illogical. Every species before had cowered, pleaded, or surrendered. But humanity had responded with laughter and a single refusal. It was a mistake, surely. They scanned deeper. Historical records, wars, societal collapses, and recoveries. They saw civilizations that had risen from ruin, wars fought against impossible odds, and a species that thrived in chaos. There was no pattern of submission, only defiance, adaptation, and escalation. A second transmission was sent. You misunderstand. Resistance is not bravery, it is extinction. You cannot win. The reply was immediate. Winning was never the point. The Alien War Council deliberated. Tactical models predicted Earth's fall within days. Yet doubt crept into their calculations. Their previous conquests had been straightforward. Overwhelm, pacify, absorb. But something about humanity unsettled them. It wasn't their weapons. It wasn't their technology. It was their refusal to acknowledge the concept of inevitability. The first strike came from Earth. Not missiles, not fleets, but information. False surrender beacons. Ghost signals bouncing across their networks. Cyber warfare that infiltrated even the Zalvoran's supposedly impenetrable systems. Entire segments of their fleet blinked off their own radar. They weren't just being resisted. They were being hunted. Reports flooded in. Sabotaged supply chains. Civilian populations vanishing into underground networks. Human forces operating with unpredictability, using terrain, deception, and misdirection in ways no empire had accounted for. A realization dawned upon the Zalvoran leadership. They weren't fighting for control. They were fighting to make the invasion so costly that victory became meaningless. A final message was sent. Not as a demand, but a question. Why do you fight when survival is impossible? The human response was chilling. Because you think survival is the goal. It isn't. The Zalvoran had expected conquest. What they got was something far worse. A species that had never learned how to kneel. The invasion began. Zalvoran warships descended, weapons primed, ready to erase resistance. Tactical models predicted swift planetary control. They were wrong. The first fleet to land never reported back. Not destroyed. Not captured. Just gone. Entire battalions vanished in dense urban sprawls, forests, underground tunnels. Advanced scanners detected movement, but by the time troops arrived, there was nothing. Human forces struck like ghosts, unseen, unpredictable, unrelenting. Then came the sabotage. Supply chains collapsed. Communication relays failed. Atmospheric stabilizers turned against them, choking their own forces. Zalvoran weapons malfunctioned, war machines turned inert, entire bases went dark. The humans had hacked their systems, rewritten their codes, turned their own technology into a liability. The War Council watched, stunned, as reports poured in. Convoys ambushed by forces that shouldn't have survived. Strategic strongholds wiped out by improvised human weapons. Entire battalions fell to traps, diversions, and unseen strikes. The Zalvoran adapted. They sent elite shock troops, species bred for war. It didn't matter. The humans didn't fight wars, they engineered disasters. Entire cities were abandoned overnight, only for their infrastructure to be rigged into weapons. Resources that should have sustained them became poison. For the first time in their empire's history, they felt something new. Something they didn't know how to process. Fear. A desperate order came from high command. Exterminate them. Burn everything. They launched planetary-scale bombardments, reducing entire regions to ash. But the humans weren't there. They had already moved, already adapted, already planned for their own destruction. And the worst part? They were smiling while they did it. The Zalvoran warlord watched his fleet crumble. What should have been a swift conquest had turned into a slow, methodical slaughter, his own. Human forces had breached his command ship. Not an army. A handful of soldiers, barely armed, yet they moved with absolute certainty. His guards fell before they could react. His weapons were useless. His defenses, compromised. He turned to his final option. Surrender, and I will spare what remains of your kind. The human leader chuckled. Not in mockery, not in arrogance, in pity. You still don't get it. Outside, the last of the Zalvoran fleet was falling. Not just to human forces, but to itself. Ships turned against each other, infected by a human virus, rewriting their systems, forcing them to tear their own empire apart. The warlord staggered. His empire was ancient, undefeated, eternal. And now, it was nothing. You can't do this, he whispered. You can't wipe out an entire species. The humans stepped closer. You gave us no choice. The warlord's last sight was Earth, a scarred but unbroken world, as his ship tore itself apart. The remnants of his empire fled into the void, carrying a single message across the stars. A warning. Never conquer Earth. Never threaten humanity. Never assume they will kneel. Because when given the choice between submission and extinction, humans will make sure you go first.